next
please
talk
carry on.
is by Vikas Singh,
Yeah.
and the talk will be conducted by Vinu Mathur. Vinu Mathur, as you know, is the president of the Rail Enthusiast Society and a very passionate rail enthusiast. Over to you, Vinu.
It's my great pleasure to introduce Vikas. As I've mentioned earlier, he's probably one of the keenest rail enthusiasts in India. He travels extensively, both in India and abroad, looking for old steam locomotives and other artifacts and memorabilia. He is a storehouse of information on various aspects of rail heritage. Apart from the railways and trains, he has diverse interests. It is often said that he pursues the 3 T's: trains, Tintin, and tea. So apart from trains, he's keen on Tintin comics and books. He specializes in participating in discussions in various forums on Tintin. He is described as a Tintinologist with an extensive collection of comics in 126 languages. So Vikas has a collection of Tintin comics in 126 languages. He also has an interest in tea. He is a certified tea taster, has traveled along several tea trails along India, and has a very rich tea collection from different parts of the country. This apart, he is a philatelist of distinction, has organized a number of exhibitions, including one on a moving train. He recently won the 3rd highest award in philatelics at the Indian Philatelic Congress. Lastly, let me mention one more of his interests. He is a very keen reader, and he is a follower of an author called Ruskin Bond. He knows the author himself very well. Ruskin Bond, for those of you who are not familiar with him, specializes in books and has written a large number of books, including books for children, and had authored a book on railway stories. He's a very popular writer in the country. And as I said, Vikas knows him well and has his entire collection of 52 books and is planning to write a book on Ruskin Bond himself. So over to you, Vikas. We are looking forward to your session.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Death Railway and its museums. Death Railway I would call a living museum because it recreates historical settings to simulate a very traumatic time period in history. The railway still preserves much of its traumatic past. And lest we forget, it's important to remember this living museum. Some grim statistics before I start, because this is going to be quite a grim presentation. 29% of the British, 31% of the Australian, 23% of Americans, 19% of all Dutch prisoner of wars used in the construction of this line survived. Rest all died in very horrible conditions. But equally horrifying is that 90% of Asiatic laborers, many of whom were lured with false promises to work on this line, didn't survive. And the tragedy is, we know very little about this 90% of the Asiatic laborers who died while building this line. 120,000 sleepers were led, and 106,000 people died. That's documented death. More people died. So which is, for every one sleeper laid on this line, one life was lost. And most people died during the Speedo period of construction, which is from April to October 1943. So with this, some very horrifying details. And at the end of World War II, 1,100 Japanese officials were tried. 32 were executed. Unfortunately, then government of Thailand had actively collaborated with Japanese for building this line, and no punishment was meted out to any Thai official. Now, so with this grim statistics, I start my presentation. It was in December 1941 that the Imperial Japanese Army invaded Thailand from Cambodia and the Gulf of Thailand. In response, Britain sent out Prince of Wales and Ripples, its two warships. Now, both were promptly sunk by Japanese aircraft, and in a matter of weeks, the Japanese had conquered Burma. In the theater of war at this point in time, the Japanese had air superiority, and the Allies still had to overcome this superiority that the Japanese enjoyed over the Asian skies at that point in time. On 15th February 1942, the British stronghold of Singapore fell, and a British force of almost 85,000 men were taken to captivity. These included Australian, Indian, and local troops. If you read the history of war at this point in period, you will be surprised to know that it was a very strange decision for the British Army then to surrender when they clearly had superiority, both in terms of the number of men on the ground and in terms of the total ammunition they had. But for some strange reason, the army surrendered, and that led to a chain of events which is now going to prove very traumatic. The British had good command over the sea. So, unable to gain command of the sea, the Japanese then decided to build a rail connection through Thailand to Burma and to India in pursuit of their strategic intent to invade India. To build this railway system, they decided to use the prisoner of wars for this task. The meter gauge railway line started from Nong Pladuk, passing through Kanchanaburi, and then crossing the Kwai River to continue along the Kwai Noi River to the Burmese border. This station still functions as a station on the main line, the Nong Pladuk station. At the same time, work started from the Burmese border, southward from the area around the Three Pagoda Pass to meet the line coming from north. Very little remains of the line from the Burmese side, and this is one of the plaque that still stands there when I last visited this place in Burma. It's in a place called Thangbu Zayat. Now, these routes pass through dense jungle-covered mountains and involved construction of more than 300 bridges and trestles, as well as major rock cuttings. Now, what you see in this picture is the wooden trestle bridge, more popularly called the Wangpo Viaduct. I will show you the pictures of the duct as it exists today, this viaduct. And if time permits, I will show you a small video of a train passing over this viaduct. The line was finally finished on 17th October 1943 when two sections of the line met about 18 kilometers south of the Three Pagoda Pass at a place called Konkuita. A golden spike was driven in to mark the occasion. Now, over 60,000 prisoners of war, mostly British and also Indian, and it's estimated 200,000 Asian laborers slogged under primitive conditions to build the bridge. Many died during the 8-month-long construction due to disease, dehydration, starvation, terrorizing torture, and even suicide. 16,000 died, as did more than 100,000 Asian slave laborers, building the line, earning the railway, the Death Railway title. The most famous portion of the railway is the Bridge 277, the bridge over the river Kwai, immortalized by the French writer Pierre Boulez in his best-selling novel of the same name. Now, there are a lot of gaps between what actually transpired and what is there in the book. The book is close to 90-95% fiction because Boulez never spent even a day at this place. In fact, he was working on the plantations and was later working in Singapore and Indochina. But this book helped give wide publicity to the torture and the horrifying details that happened while the construction of this railway line. Now, what you see is an old photograph which shows the first wooden bridge over the river Kwai that was finished in February 1943. It was followed by a concrete and a steel bridge in June 1943. The next picture you will see more clearly the steel bridge which is on the right. So you can see the girders of the steel bridge on the right of this wooden trestle bridge. Now, the original iron bridge was brought from Java by Japanese armed forces and was reassembled by the prisoners of war. It consisted 11 steel spans, while the remainder was made of wood. What you see in the film, the bridge on the river Kwai, actually never did happen like that. The two bridges were successfully bombed on 13 February 1945 by the Royal Air Force. It was never sabotaged by the prisoner of war. It was actually first bombed by the RAF. The repairs were immediately carried out, and by April, the wooden trestle bridge was back in operation. Unlike in the movie, which you see that, once on the day of the inauguration, they successfully blow up the bridge. Then once again, a second attack was made and the forces damaged the wooden bridge once again. Repair was again done and both the bridges were in operation again by the end of May. A more successful raid by RAF on 24th June put the railway out of use to the end of the war. Now, what you see as one of the missiles which was used, you see it here, which successfully destroyed the bridge and put it out of operation for the rest of the war. After the Japanese surrender, the British Army removed 3.9 kilometers of the track on the Thai-Burma border. The remaining track was sold to Thai railways. The 3 of the spans of the bridge destroyed by Allied bombings were replaced with 2 angular steel spans built by Yokogawa Bridge Works, Tokyo. Now, when I looked at this mark builder plate on the bridge, made me think that this was maybe one of the ways in which the Japanese were finally repenting for what they had done during the construction of this bridge. The wooden spans were also replaced by steel at this point in time. The entire 130-kilometer Ban Pong to the Namtok station was relayed and is still in use today from Thonburi to Sayok in Thailand. This is in the Thai part. A large part of the original railway line beyond Namtok is now submerged under the Longkorn Dam and is covered by dense forest at the Burma border. So what you see, the part of the death railway that still survives is the part that survives on the Thailand part. Now, this loco has always looked very demonic to me. I mean, it does not look very feminine, and it's got a very evil sense. And maybe this arises partly because this was one of the locos that worked on the railway line, and this loco can now be seen plinth in Burma at a place called Thangbu Zayat. Now, this is the place where I showed you the plaque which exists from where the death railway started from the Burmese side. It still gives a very creepy feeling when you look at this loco. The story was later filled by David Lean in the blockbuster movie Bridge on the River Kwai. Now, David Lean created film history as the first British film director to win the Oscar. However, this movie was never shot at the correct location, but was shot near the small town Kitulgala in Sri Lanka. The original bridge never looked like this bridge. The scenes which he shot showing, the dense jungles on the Thai Burma part were actually shot in a garden in Sri Lanka. It was in June 2012 that I decided to ride on the Death Railway to see the places associated with this infamous railway. Now, arriving in Bangkok, I went straight to the Thonburi station, which is today from where this line starts. Then I boarded the 7:45 hours unreserved train 257 Thonburi Namtok from Thonburi station. Now, if you look at this picture today, it looks so pristine. One can hardly imagine the horrors that existed during the World War II in this very station. We reached Kanchanaburi at 12:45, a full 2 hours behind schedule. Now, trains seldom run on time. That's been my experience of traveling on trains in Thailand. And a 2 to a 5 hour delay is considered very normal. The Kanchanaburi tourism depends heavily on the Death Railway. We checked into a raft house on the river. So this is the raft house that is right on the river Kwai. This is the raft house. The entire tourism in Kanchanaburi is around this infamous railway line. Now, there is a Thailand Burma Railway Center Museum, which is located near the Kanchanaburi railway station. This is a private museum. The museum area tells the story of railways in quite a non-partisan way through 8 main galleries depicting the various facets of the railway. Remains of 6,982 prisoners of war, predominantly British and Australian prisoners who died during the construction of the Death Railway, are buried. More than 100,000 Indians died. Very sadly, only 16 of them are mentioned on a flag here. No details are known about the rest of the Indian and Asian slave laborers who died during the construction of the line. The oldest to die during the construction of this railway was aged 58, Sergeant G.A. Anderson, and the youngest to die was signalman C.E. Watkins. Some more pictures from the cemetery. There is a Jeet War Museum. The open air Jeet, it stands for Japan, England, Australia, Thailand, and Holland. Museum was built in 1977 by a Thai abbot in the style of the huts used to imprison prisoners of war. The museum contains bunks and pictures of actual soldiers who died along with authentic items from the war. A diorama which shows the horrible conditions under which this line was built. Now contrast this with the style and the splendor in which the Japanese soldiers traveled. Now this is a hand-pulled carriage in which the officers of the Japanese army used to move around to supervise construction of the line. Wherever the roads were there, they even had jeeps. This is almost similar to what you see during Auschwitz, where the prisoners were moved from one destination to the other almost like animals. This is one of the carriages that was used to transport the prisoners of war, while the officers of the Japanese army moved in these stately carriages. There is a war museum at the Kwai Bridge. It is located on the bank of the Kwai River near the bridge. The museum is a rich collection of war instruments, photographs, uniforms, etc. It is 3 floors. The top 2 floors are, in the typical traditional bamboo style. Here you see some old pictures. Then there are dioramas and paintings of the prime ministers or other important political figures from the Thai history. Around 2 kilometers south to the Kanchanaburi, on the bank of the Kwai River, this is the cemetery, the Chongkai Cemetery. The cemetery is at the original site of the base camp hospital and a church that was built by the prisoner of wars. It contains graves of 1,740 Australian, New Zealand, British, French, and the Dutch prisoners of war, most of whom died in the hospital here. This is the entry to the war cemetery. Now, this is the Chungkai cutting. This still working section of the railway that passes through this cutting through a rocky mountain on the original railway bed. Now, think this entire cutting was made by the prisoners without any modern tool. It was with bare hands and very, very primitive instruments. So they actually dug out sections of the hill using their own hands. Walking along the line, it was very difficult to imagine the awesome task of completing such work by just bare hands. We went back, and these are those long long-tailed boats that keep moving around. Now, on the bridge, they run a tram that runs on Sundays and takes tourists across the bridge, bringing them back in less than 45 minutes. So every Sunday, you have this joyride on the bridge. Near the bridge, a couple of locomotives are there, all of whom worked on the Death Railway. This one was built by North British, Hyde Park. It was later number 21140. This one was built by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. 165 such locomotives were built between 1935 and 1942. This is former Malaysian Railway P class, number letter 521, initially number 804. This is plain near the Kwai Bridge. We then took the train number 485, which was now behind schedule by 3 hours, to reach the Namtok station at 12 noon. Now, I don't know why, but even this loco looks quite demonic in its appearance. I mean, if you look at this loco, and if you look at other locos used worldwide, I don't know, the shape and the way the glasses are there, it looks quite demonic. This is the Namtok station. This is the last terminus when you take a train from Kanchanaburi. This used to be, a 3/4 of the line when the Death Railway used to operate. This is how the station today is. Very few people come all this way. It's very close to the border, and most of the time it rains here. If you see this dense undergrowth and lush green vegetation all around. This is the railway siding. The same train then comes back in the evening. This is a memorial which is near the Namtok station. This is a memorial for the Hellfire Pass. I'm going to talk about that pass shortly, which is also run as a museum now. This is a diorama that shows the entire flow of the river and the railway track that moved around that along with it. This is the Sai Yok station. This technically is the last station on the line, but no train runs beyond Namtok. And this is technically the end of the Death Railway today, the last station on the Death Railway. This is where the line ends today. After 8 kilometers from there is the dam, and then is the Burmese border. Now, this is the Hellfire Pass. The pass is 500 meters long and 26 meters deep section of rock that was dug out by prisoners of war to allow the Death Railway continue its route. Now, imagine this entire section was dug out again with just bare hands and bamboo shoots. They had no other instrument to dig out and take the soil out and the rocks. The soldiers were forced to remove the rock and soil using no more than picks and hammers and their bare hands. Of the 1,000 Australian and British soldiers who took 12 weeks to clear this stretch of mountain, 700 died. It's run as a memorial museum, and what you see here are the original sleepers that were relaid in the concave cutting in April 1989. Now, there is a trail where visitors follow the old railway track into the jungle and a museum. So the line stops here, and after which is a walking trail. It was on this trail that the famous 3-tier bridges and the Pack of Card Bridge and the Hellfire Pass and the compressor cutting all were located. And it's a 7-kilometer long walk, and it's maintained as a memorial museum. And you can see all the places where these bridges once stood. This is a lot of it has been reclaimed by the jungle and by plantations. Now just imagine all this section was dug with just bare hands by the prisoners of war. The Hellfire Pass Memorial Museum. At the end of the trail, at the end of 7 kilometers, you can visit this museum by road as well, but most people walk those 7 kilometers to this museum along the trail. This museum contains pictures and tools related to building of the railway and the digging of the pass. Now just look at the instruments they had to dig out this section right through the mountains. These were the only primitive tools that were available at that point in time for the prisoners of war. This is the initial part from where the trail starts. This is a tablet in memory of Sir Edward Weary Dunlop. It was because of the doctors under his leadership that so many prisoners of war and the Asian laborers survived, even in such horrible conditions. He and his team of doctors did all that was possible to alleviate pain and suffering, and as the tablet says, gave them reason to live when all real hope seemed to be lost. When he died, his ashes were scattered in this area on 25th April 1994. This is one of the sleepers from that era. This is a memorial stone there. Once again, you see those infamous box cars, which was used to transport these prisoners of war for construction of this line. In many ways, they resemble what the Nazis used for moving the Jews and the Gypsies for the final solution. A time capsule was inserted here, and it says that, in the hope that the story of the Burma-Thailand Railway will be remembered forever. It's supposed to be opened on 25th April 2048. Now, near the Namtok station, the next station is the Krasai station. Now, short distance from the station is the long trestle bridge, commonly known as the Wampo Viaduct. Now, this viaduct still is uses the same wooden trestle bridge that was built during the World War II. It has not been rebuilt, and you can imagine this entire bridge was built with almost bare hands by the prisoners of war, and trains still run on this wooden trestle bridge. The two main sections, there are two sections of this viaduct. Both follow the cliff to some distance. A ledge had to be carved out of the cliff face to form a base for the bridge and the embankment construction. Now, this construction took place during the period known as Speedo, which was from April to October 1943. More than 40% of the prisoners of war and the slave laborers who died during this period, and it was during this period of Speedo that this viaduct was built. It has been strengthened, and some sections have been rebuilt to the original design in the post-war years. It is still used. And if you watch the movie The Railway Man, which is one of the most authentic movie to cover this period, you will see extensive footage of this bridge. This is a long shot, and the Kwai Noi River is flowing. See some close sections of the bridge. This is the second section of the same bridge. This is the small station at the end of the bridge where trains generally stop after crossing the viaduct. Now, near the railway line is the Krasay cave, which once sheltered the prisoners of war building the line. Now, way back, after seeing the bridge, we took the reverse train 486, leaving Namtok to reach Kanchanaburi back at 18:30 hours. Now, there is a Garat 457, which is plinth outside the Kanchanaburi section. Now, if you look at the line, it looks quite primitive, but even on that line, this heavy Garat engines used to work. I don't know how it was possible, but these locos worked on that line, which looks so primitive even today. This is that famous bridge, the bridge of the River Kwai. On both sides, you see the incendiary bombs that were dropped, which ended up destroying two spans and putting the bridge out of use during the World War. This is a school children visiting this bridge. This is while walking on the bridge. This is the other side. Once you cross Kanchanaburi and you go to the other side of the bridge. On the track, you can see the 1911. This is part of the old track which is still in use. This is the Kwai Bridge station. This is again a memorial tablet which is near the bridge. The other part of it I had shown you near the Namtok station. Today it looks all very peaceful and almost picture postcard perfect. Difficult to imagine the horrors people had to undergo during the Second World War, during the period of Japanese occupation. The river is not quite very deep here, so you can actually wade across the river even during the monsoons. And it's pretty clean. And the water is very, very clean. These two sections, which you see from your left, were the ones that were destroyed by the RAF bombing that put this bridge out of use. They're newly built later. See the train passing over the bridge. It's become a major tourist spot, and so the entire surrounding is very well maintained by the government. This is me. I was standing right on the bridge and got the photograph taken. I'll take you through a video. Let's see if it works. This is when the train is passing over the Wampo viaduct. Yeah. So that pretty much sums up the presentation. So any questions, and I'll be happy to take them.
I think one question that Apurva has asked is how many trains run on the Death Valley?
There's only one
Death
train.
Railway now.
Yeah, that's only one. That's one which runs in the morning and comes back in the afternoon.
Is it used primarily by tourists or are
Yeah,
they
primarily
regular?
by tourists. Primarily by tourists.
Any plans for changing from wood to steel, and will it ever become commercially viable in the sense that will this extend further into Burma and then this is meter gauge, right?
Yeah, it's meter gauge. So no, it will never get extended to Burma because 8 kilometers from there is the dam.
Acha, so it's
And
finished.
beyond that is all dense forest. So they basically run it now for tourism purposes because you have a lot of people coming from US, Britain, Australia, and Holland, basically survivors
Right.
or who come to that place in memory of the people of their relatives who got killed.
Yes.
And others who would have watched the film. So it's basically a tourist destination today.
Okay.
So, and stations are very small. So they would continue to maintain it in this because the intent, as the director of the Jeet Museum said, we want to maintain it as a living museum.
All right. So what is the distance that the train travels from Kanchanaburi to this place?
I would not, it takes around 3.5 hours. So it should be around 120, 125 kilometers.
Okay. And so the nearest airport would be Kanchanaburi. In case somebody...
No. Nearest airport is Bangkok.
Acha. Okay. All right. Okay.
But what was very fascinating is to see that the way they have preserved every single artifact that was possible.
Yes.
You can see right from the prisoner's diary to the courts, to the weapons that were used, to the chapel that they had built. Everything has been preserved, and it's the authenticity of the artifacts is there. So, and it's a very moving experience when you walk along these trails. I mean, they have ensured that people don't come there for selfie as people generally do.
Yeah.
That selfie crowd is not there. So, and it's a very, believe you me, it's a very extremely moving experience. Even when I was presenting, because when you read what is written in the museums, when you see the memories along the train, and you realize the trauma and the horror, it's almost similar to the museum, the emotion
Auschwitz.
you go through when you go to Auschwitz.
Yes.
It's almost similar to that.
Yeah.
I recall reading somewhere that even on the Bhor Ghat, for every sleeper that was laid, at least one person died. For totally different reasons, though. There were no prisoners of war. It was just that you didn't care about the workers who were working and the very difficult conditions that you had on Bhor Ghat.
Yeah, here it was more like it was cheap labor. So they were not even fed thrice. I mean, as per Geneva Conventions, whatever had to be done, people were given a very watery gruel of, boiled rice once a day. So people died from, malaria, from diarrhea, from malnutrition, just from overexhaustion. So that's...
In fact, the Bhor Ghat also, more people are supposed to have died of things like malaria and sickness than actually, dying of something else.
Here also the same thing. Of course, the movie, they had a very romantic version of the whole thing. So, the movie was quite off the mark. Of course, it did win an Oscar, but it was never true to what actually happened there.
See, I had visited Thailand in 2015 for the Astro conference. I must say I was very impressed by the fact that I don't think Thailand at any given time would have had more than about 250 or 300 steam locos working on their system at any given time. Yet today, they're able to run timetable steam trains on 4 days of the year.
Yeah.
Timetable, not just that you run them in India you like, which I'm very sorry to say in India we have not been able to do. in spite of the fact that in the late 1960s, we had almost 12,000 steam locos running in India.
That's true. That's true. And these timetable runs are well advertised. You can buy tickets well in advance.
No, and they're on, see, one is on their Independence Day, one is on the King's birthday, one is on the Queen's birthday, days like that.
So we have 12 minutes. Should I start with the photo presentation?
Yeah,
Yes, you can do that, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vikas, for a wonderful presentation. Although the theme was somewhat grim, but I think it is something we need to recall from time to time.
Thank you, sir.
Can you see my screen? Not yet.
We can.
Okay.
No, we can see it.
Yeah, okay. So we're starting from where we left off yesterday. This is a locomotive which looks very ratty, but it has hauled in a prestigious super fast train. And on the internet, we had an argument that why does a locomotive look so bad? But the argument was that mechanically it's very sound. So because of the wear and tear and the lack of service intervals, it looks like this. But it has hauled in a train from Nanded to Mumbai VT in its rated time. So it's something we can accept. Here's a very early morning scene in Mumbai VT, and the train has come from Calcutta. Due to COVID, the particular timetabling had gone all wonky, but this is a train which should have come at about 11 o'clock, but it's come earlier. And like I mentioned earlier, that in Mumbai VT CSMT, the loco has to reverse out only after the rake is removed because it doesn't have any escape sidings. There's no space. Mumbai is very narrow. So like in Chennai or in Howrah, you could remove the loco once it has come to a dead end. In Mumbai, you couldn't. Here is a view of the suburban booking hall in VT. And this was in the middle of COVID, so we didn't have many people traveling on the suburban lines. This is the VT station has got an old heritage part, and platform numbers 13, 14 to 18 are built on another property which is to the east of the old station. And this is the hallway which connects the two parts, and it's just a view of how it looks, the particular the passage between the two. Some sort of plugging in of my own this thing, so it's very Sri Malegaonkar, who was the CPRO of Mumbai, and he was very kind to put some of our pictures there, and this picture holds a place of pride in this particular outdoor gallery in VT, and this is of course Adarki. This is a view of the, sometimes the trains are longer than the platforms. So this fellow has gone beyond the starter. This is Deccan Express. Normally it starts on a different platform, but that platform was under maintenance. It had some other train standing on it. So here is the assistant driver coming off the Deccan Express, who's bringing the breakfast, and he's just boarding the loco for starting his train within 5-10 minutes. Here's a view of the Deccan Express chair car. It's empty because it's between VT and Dadar. At Dadar, it'll fill up. At Thane and Kalyan, it'll fill up even more. But it's a nice thing to travel on the Indian Railways. This is the reason why Deccan Express had to start on a smaller platform, because the new SPART, which is a self-propelled inspection rake that is standing on this thing, it is called Parak. This belongs to the Mumbai division. And the day is just starting at 6:40 in the clock, if you can see in the background. And the cleaning crew is just cleaning up the cabin for the electrical train maintenance crew, which is on the right side. It's just a snapshot of what happens in the station. If you climb up, there are two. There is a foot over bridge at the far end of VT. This football bridge played a lot of, during the terrorist attacks which happened in Mumbai. This particular foot-over bridge allowed the controller to direct all the passengers away from the concourse into this bridge, and they asked them to evacuate the station and saved many lives. And here is the view of the dawn. So east is this side, and there's an airplane flying on the top. JL sir, keep a track of time, sir. Okay. Yeah. And here is a view at the exit of VT, and it's very nice to see that you have only three-phase locomotives. They may be diesel, they may be electrics, but you find increasingly. So India, we say India is a poor country, but the way we have taken on to three-phase motor technology, and we now very rarely see DC motored locomotives anymore. So this is just a view of the train leaving VT. When you're obsessed with trains and you need to portray them and all the things, so the left-hand side is a shade rake of Deccan Express, and the other, the VT Madgaon Jan Shatabdi, and on the right is Gadag to Mumbai Express, which has just arrived. Here is the loco of Gadag Mumbai Express, which is waiting. It's dead. Here is a not Indian Railways, but it's the monorail which is unique to Mumbai. And this is a shot of the dusk at Vadala. Here's another shot of the monorail. The thing is at the bottom that this particular premium colony, all the trees are either fruit bearing or they have flowers. So there is something which is on all the time, and the monorail curves at this point. So it's I had to wait till another monorail came and the evening light was still intact while I could take this photograph. Here is a chai vendor. It's again 6:40, 6:50 in the morning, so there are not many people on the bridge. But a lot of stations on the Indian Railways now have elevators, so that helps people to climb to the on the foot-over bridges. Here's a early. It's a departure towards Ahmedabad, the Duronto. This is Pune Junction, and just the atmosphere, a full moon. What you see on the left is this particular thing is a new metro line which is coming up, and it will start operation within 3 or 4 months. And you have a hotel, a luxury hotel on the site. The view of west from the platform. The previous view, I've just turned around 180 degrees. This is a starter signal for our train. And we have another 10-15 minutes, the train would leave for Ahmedabad. I reverse photobombed the cleaning crew's team meeting. So they had a team meeting. These are the people who travel on the trains, and that's a new thing for the Indian Railways to have a cleaning crew which travel with the trains. And so they had a team meeting, and the team leader took a photograph, and I took a photograph of him taking a photograph. So that's what the potentials for railfan photographer is in India. Looking at the eastern end of Pune, again the same full moon that you saw earlier, a train which is about to depart on the left, and on the ground you see the UIC cable. Now on the left is the new rake of Pragati Express, which has got a Vista Dome coach. So this is a Vista Dome coach which is waiting here, and the loco has just gone ahead, and so they have to take this UIC cable which couples the data of the power generation, the HOG into the coach. So the LHB coaches require this cable in case you are using the head-on generation feature of the locomotive. Just a technical detail. Such sort of magic scenes occur only if you travel overnight in trains in India. No flight will give you this sort of fantastic experience that you wake up early in the morning, train is pulling into a station, and you have this fantastic view. It's nothing great, but it is so beautiful. In my eyes, it is very beautiful. This is a photo of dawn rising over Ahmedabad Junction. We have just arrived on a train, and we're waiting for the second train, which is following to arrive, and then we'll go further from Ahmedabad. A lot of our luggage now has got wheels, so we really don't require porters so much, the coolies, and they have much more spare time. I think it speaks sadly of their thing, but that's the way we do it. I mean, I haven't used a coolie for last so many years. So here's another coolie waiting for some sort of business. Here is a view of Ahmedabad station. Sir, you're muted. Jail sir, please unmute if you want to speak. Yeah.
Now we only have a minute left. So we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
stop
So
now.
just the last one. I'll finish this one off. And
Okay.
here is a view of when you enter Ahmedabad platform number 1. It's just a view, a view of the atmosphere that exists at any Indian railway station. Thank you so much. I'm there, and we can continue in case we have more time later. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Apurva.
Thank you, sir.